William Brennand and Stefan Occhi join me this week to discuss their unique brewing project called Zerogravity. This is BeerSmith Podcast number 129. This is BeerSmith episode number 129, and it's early July 2016. William Brennand and Stefan Occhi, both students at the University of Nottingham, join me to discuss their master's level brewing project called Zerogravity. Thank you to this week's sponsor, Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine. You get 6 amazing issues each year, packed with information for brewers and beer fans. This month's issue has a detailed focus on saisons, as well as brewer profiles and beercation ideas. I encourage you to check out this great magazine for homebrewers at beerandbrewing.com. Again, that's beerandbrewing.com. And also Anvil, a new line of brewing equipment from Blickman Engineering. Anvil's new kettle strainer is just what you've been waiting for. Stainless steel construction and plug resistant, this filtration screen efficiently filters out your hops and trub. It's easily clean and attaches directly to your Anvil kettle, and it's available now at a very attractive $44.99 price point. Find out more about Anvil at anvilbrewing.com. Again, that's anvilbrewing.com. And finally, BeerSmith Mobile. The mobile version of BeerSmith is a perfect complement to our desktop brewing software, and it includes all the tools you need to create recipes on the go, share them with your friends, or act as a pocket brew timer. Check out BeerSmith Mobile at beersmith.com/mobile or on the Google Play, iTunes, or Amazon app stores. And now let's jump into this week's episode. Today on the show, my guest is William Brennand, head brewer for Zerogravity Project, as well as Stefan Occhi, project manager. They're both students at the University of Nottingham working on a unique microbrewing project as part of their master's degree in brewing sciences. Stefano is from Italy. Stefano, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you. Bye.
And we also have William is from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and they're both pursuing their degrees in brewing sciences. Will, it's great to have you on the show as well.
Thank you, Brad.
So you guys are both at the University of Nottingham working on this thing called Zerogravity. Will, can you tell us a little bit about the project and how it got started?
So this is our dissertation project, which is our capstone project for our MSc course here at the University of Nottingham. In lieu of a more traditional lab-based dissertation project. And our professor, David Quain, started something like this known as natural selection brewing up at Harriet Watt when he was there. And when he transferred down here to the University of Nottingham, he brought the idea and set up shop with us. And the project itself is a new product development where we design, as a team, design a new beer and take it all the way from lab all the way up to the commercial scale and then sell it in the market.
So you guys are not only playing with the beer or designing the beer, you're actually carrying it all the way through. And are you responsible for the marketing as well?
We are. That's actually the job of our third team member, who is otherwise occupied at the moment.
Well, Stefano, you're all students at the University of Nottingham. How exactly does the university tie? I mean, you mentioned you have an advisor, obviously, and this is part of your master's thesis. But how does this all tie into your education itself?
Yeah, I can say this project is a sum up of all the study of we did during this year. We studied everything about brewing, from raw materials to packaging to fermentation. But now we are applying all this knowledge in a real situation. So David Quain is our supervisor and is supporting us, but is giving us also a lot of freedom to operate. But there is an entire department dedicated to brewing science called the International Center of Brewing Science. And there are specialists in many different fields, like sensory science with John Hort and Becky Ford, yeast and fermentation, raw materials. And we have also a collaboration with SAB Miller, which have a small pilot plant in the university. We have a lot of people supporting us, and from the beginning of the project, we spoke with many different peoples, and they all helped us with the development of the product.
And Will, I understand you've teamed up with a commercial brewery. Can you tell us a little bit about which brewery you're working with and what they're bringing to the table?
Absolutely. We've partnered up with the Castle Rock Brewery in Nottingham, which is a relatively large regional brewery here in Nottinghamshire. And they've been operating for about 15 years as the Castle Rock Brewery. And their system is now about 50 US barrels for brew length. And as far as what they bring to the table, they've partnered us up with Adrian Redgrove, who's the head brewer over there. He's been there since 2004, and under his direction, they've produced several award-winning beers, including the champion beer of Britain at the Great British Beer Festival in 2010 with the Harvest Pale.
That's pretty amazing. So it's an award-winning regional brewery. You said 15 years they've been doing work. Well, Stefano, the three of you are a team. Each of you has different roles on the team. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, as I told before, this is this one to simulate a real life situation. So all of this started with an interview. The three of us and some other course mates were interviewed by Professor Quain and some production guy from Castle Rock. And we were selected for different positions in the project. In fact, Will Brennand is the lead brewer of our team, and he's responsible for production, recipe formulation, and he's responsible for the scale up from the small scale to the bigger scale. Will Gelder, the British Will, is our sales and marketing manager, and so he's responsible for all our social media, for sales, and for the organization of events. I am responsible for the general organization of the project and also for the quality management of the project. As we said before, Professor Quain is our supervisor, and so he helped us to collaborate with the brewery and with the department. But yeah, he gave us a lot of freedom to operate.
Outstanding. Well, Will, you spent quite a bit of time coming up with brand names and logos. How do all these fit into your overall marketing plan? You said you're going to market the beer yourself.
Correct. So the time that we spent on brand and the logo were really quite crucial for this year because it is the first year, and this is a project that will likely continue in the future. Natural Selection Brewing, this is their, I want to say their 5th year of doing this, and each year it gets bigger and better. So the idea is that here, what we set up with Zero Gravity is that that will continue and grow and hopefully rival Natural Selection Brewing in a very short order of time.
So what's Natural Selection Brewing?
So Natural Selection Brewing, that's basically, we're a clone of Natural Selection Brewing in that David Quain set it up with Harriet Watt up in Scotland and Stewart Brewing up there. And when he came down to Nottingham, he really liked the idea, and it worked really well as sort of a non-traditional dissertation project that kind of brings everything together that you're going to learn through brewing science and actually apply it in a real life situation.
So what's your marketing plan? I know your marketing guy's not here today, but I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you're doing to market and brand the beer.
So as far as branding goes, we've actually held a logo competition that we opened up to everyone, and we received several submissions, and we had an Italian, Cristiano Ferrari, who actually won the competition and has designed all of our logos and has been working with us this entire time to make sure that we get everything together on the marketing, such as leaflets and any sort of T-shirts or things of that nature that we're going to be doing.
Now I think this is your logo, right?
That's our logo for our pump clip that will be going out.
There it is. I'm sorry. There it is.
That's our main logo right there. And we've been in contact with a couple of local bottle shops that will be purchasing actually some bottles that we have just been alerted that we're going to be doing, which we're very excited about. And in general, then it's going to be through pubs with the casks.
So primarily you're distributing through local pubs in England, I assume, right?
Correct. I don't think the casks will survive a long journey to the U.S., so it'll probably be set up here and within a very short radius.
Cool. Well, from what I understand, you're planning a 3,000 liter batch, Steph, right? Is that correct? A 3,000 liter batch?
Yeah, 30x exactly.
So, how do you actually fund something like that? I mean, it seems like that's a fair amount of grain and ingredients, right?
Yeah, it is. But in fact, both the university and Castle Rock believe in this project. We have these predecessors from natural selection brewing that was successful. So the idea is that this project is self-funded. So Castle Rock and the university will anticipate the money to pay for the ingredients, but they are sure that the beer will be sold, and there will be also some money for the future, because in fact the idea is that the income of this beer will be split between Castle Rock and the university, and the money gained by the university will be reinvested for the next team next year, so they will have more money for marketing as such things, because this year we were the first team here in Nottingham, so we didn't have access to this money. But at the same time, we had a lot of support from the brewery and also at the university.
Awesome. Well, Will, you guys, let's talk about beer for a minute. You guys are developing a traditional English cask ale. Let's talk a little bit about what that means, because I know some people here in the U.S. may not be that familiar with the style and how you're approaching that style.
Absolutely. It's actually been kind of fun for me learning about this style coming over here, because it's not something that you find often in the U.S. So with a traditional English cask ale, what you're looking for is that it will have low carbonation relative to things that you get in kegs. So we're talking maybe about 1.5 volumes of CO2. And it's also served a little warmer than what most people are probably used to. It's at cellar temperature, which is in the UK 12 degrees Celsius, which is about 53, 54 degrees Fahrenheit. Thus probably the stereotype of warm British beer.
Warm flat beer, right?
Exactly.
Although I've been over there, it's delicious. It really is.
It really is, and it suits the climate perfectly.
So, yeah, tell us a little more about the style too. What does it taste like, for example?
Well, these beers tend to be more malt dominant as opposed to hoppy, which is understandable, and because it's open to the air. That's kind of the key defining characteristic of casks, is that you've got oxygen going in as soon as you tap the cask, which is probably what many of us would consider a big no-no. So as time goes by, you actually get this oxidation, which is sometimes a little desirable in some of the beers. But what's important to know is that it's a living product. You have yeast in there. You're not filtering that off or really pulling all of it out when you go to cask. So the yeast is in there picking out a little bit of the residual sugar that you leave, which creates the little bit of carbonation and continues to take care of the beer as it's sitting.
And you mentioned it oxidized a little bit, but it's also meant to be drunk fairly quickly, right?
Correct. Casks have very short shelf lives. You really want the turnover for a cask to be less than a week once it's tapped.
Well, Stefano, have you guys started brewing any test batches yet? Do you have a pilot system, for example, that you're working with?
Yeah. We have at university. In fact, for the product development, we had a structure process. We started from the small scale. We had some brew kits for brewing 25 liters batches, and we first started with the different styles because we wanted to explore some different flavors and something that can fit the cask packaging. Then we sit around the table with the team, with Castarock, and we decided for the style that we wanted to develop further. So we brewed some more batches on the small scale, trying different fermentation temperatures, type of yeast, and then we fixed the recipes and we started to scale up. And today we are just arrived from the SAB Miller pilot plant where we brewed 8 hectoliters of the hot beer.
So 800 liters, right?
Yeah, exactly, 800 liters, which was a test before the full scale of the 30 hectoliters, so 3,000 liters that we are going to brew on next Saturday at Castarock.
So you're getting close to the end here, huh?
Yeah, very close. But everything seems to be all right for the moment.
So how many test batches did you make altogether?
I think around five. Yeah. But considering that the first round where we produced many different styles, even more, because we first produced also a wheat beer, an Irish red, and other styles. So we had a steam beer as well. We had six beer at the beginning, and we decided for the old.
So I mean, you didn't necessarily start out trying to design an English cask ale. You actually looked at several different styles up front.
Yeah, we tried to select a style that would fit in the situation, because working with Castarock, they have a traditional single infusion mesh system. We knew that we were packaging in cask, so we explored different styles that can fit in this situation, and as well we desired to produce a beer that was easy to drink during summer.
Makes sense. What was the process you went through to down select the beers?
Basically, we score the beer for different parameters, and we some of them we tried to reproduce in situations similar to the cask, and we completely exclude. Some were similar, but at the end, this one was the one that really stand out, and we all agreed about it.
Outstanding. Well, Will, let's talk about the design of your beer. You down selected to a English cask ale. How did you go about selecting the ingredients for it and designing it?
Well, selecting the ingredients, that's pretty simple. We started out with some very kind of standard, nothing too special on the special malts, and we used Maris Otter, which is a very well-known barley variety here in the UK.
Great choice, and gives a lot of good flavor.
A lot of good flavor, and it's absolutely wonderful in terms of process. Actually, on the test brew this morning, we had no problems whatsoever with the sparge and lautering. It was fantastic. And as far as other ingredients, we decided that we wanted to, with the hops, we wanted a 2-hop regime using Magnum for bittering and Tettning for an aroma.
Interesting. And neither one of those are really traditional English hops, though, right?
Correct. And this is kind of where the Tettning, because this is an alt beer, which is us taking a shot at paying homage to German brewing, and the Magnum is a really nice high alpha bittering hop, so we don't need that much of it, which is kind of a huge thing, especially with the limited availability of hops at the moment. So these are kind of why we chose these two hops. They were easily obtainable in today's market.
So I assume the Magnum is the bittering hop primarily, right?
Correct.
And then you're using the Tettnang how are you doing? Dry hop, whirlpool hop? What are you doing?
So we're actually using the hop back that Castle Rock has, which is essentially another lautering vessel, where we actually, one of the nice things about using an English system is that it's kind of geared towards whole leaf hops. So that's where the Tettnang is going to go. And it's going to act as a filter aid, as well as adding in a little bit of bitterness from isomerization in the hop back. And it should add a little bit of aroma because we're not boiling at that point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're going to get some hop oils, I would think, from the hop back, right?
Mm-hmm. A little bit. Yes.
So just to describe folks that may not be interested, the hop back goes between, it's during the transfer primarily, right?
Right. So
it's actually a device that goes in between the line there, right?
Correct. It's actually, this is a pretty much, you could put this into a smaller size brewery and use it as a lautering tun if you really wanted to. It's that size. It goes in between the boil kettle and the FEs. So right before it gets cooled through a plate chiller, it'll go into this vessel. It'll sit for a few minutes, and then we'll recirculate the wort through it, since there's really no whirlpool in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And the hops will act to catch all the trub and give us a relatively clear wort going into FE.
Pretty cool. And I mean, did you use a smaller hop back for the test batches? How did you integrate that into the pilot system?
Well, actually, that was interesting. We actually couldn't integrate that into any of our systems because we don't actually have any sort of small lab equipment to simulate that. So for the test batch we did this morning, we just had to use whirlpool hopping to try and get sort of that same sort of utilization and aroma. And for our other smaller brews, we added them towards the end, just at the end of the boil, and let it sit for a little bit.
Nice. Well, Stefano, can you talk a little bit about your choice of yeast and fermentation?
Yeah, of course. So considering yeast, during the development phase, we tried to use both liquid and dry yeast. And at the end, our decision was to use dry yeast for several reasons. First, because we observed that the fermentation profile and the sensory analysis were pretty similar from liquid to dry yeast. The fact is that we are not doing a beer that is really yeast-oriented, like it can be a Belgian Habe yeast, where the choice of yeast is really fundamental. In our case, we decided to use a Nottingham yeast, which is pretty neutral. And
but I mean, it probably still has. Doesn't it still have some of the esters and things that you would expect in an English ale? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which was something that we were looking for. And moreover, dry yeast are simple to handle, and you don't have to worry about oxygenation because they are already oxygenating during their production. And as we were using just for one beer, it was cheaper than liquid yeast. And so all of these reasons bring us to decide for the Nottingham yeast.
So, I mean, did you use a major brand? Is it something folks might be able to get from homebrewing?
Yeah, we did, because in fact, when we were brewing on the small scale, we were using home brewing product. We tried Poo yeast, the old beer. Then we tried also the US 05 as dry yeast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that what you ended up with? I'm sorry.
with Nottingham, the Lallemand
The
Nottingham.
Lallemand. Okay, that's what I was wondering. I guess which one you ended up picking.
Yeah.
Well, Will, can you describe the system that you're going to be brewing in at Castle Rock when you scale this thing up?
Absolutely. So Steph kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but it's a single infusion mash lauter tun, open pretty much to the top to the air, and it's got a mash infuser or at the top. Mm-hmm. So as the grain comes down, it's mixed with the water, mm-hmm. goes into the mash tun, and it sits there. And the neat thing about the mash tun is that it has a V-arm attached, which is basically this large U-shaped metal arm underneath. Mm-hmm. And the way it works is it's attached to the bottom of the kettle, and depending on the angle as it goes down, the water level underneath the grain bed drops. So it basically acts to suspend the bed above the bottom of the plate, so that as the water decreases, you get a nice, efficient sparging and lautering process. Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't have to worry about it getting stuck and things like that, right?
Well, we hope.
You hope.
We'll find out. We'll find out soon enough, I suppose.
That sounds pretty cool. And then the rest of the system, what does that look like?
So the rest of the system, so after that, it goes to a boil kettle, which has a coil inside, a gas burner, and it'll sit there for an hour, and then it'll go over to the hop back, which will just recirculate the wort through, get rid of the troop, and then it's off to the cold side of the plant, which is just on the other side of the wall. And there's a plate heat exchanger and an oxygenation system. Then you've got your fermentation vessels, which are not actually conical. They're kind of squat.
Interesting. So they don't have the traditional conical that you'd see in most microbreweries.
Not in Castle Rock, actually.
So does that change your thoughts at all? I mean, it's a fairly quickly fermenting beer, I would think, but does that change your design at all?
Well, if we were going to reuse the yeast, then we would rather have a conical fermenter. But because the yeast is actually integral to the rest of the process, it actually works out pretty well in that the yeast that's in suspension is not too hasn't flocked out all that well.
And you don't have a long aging time either to worry about either, right?
No, the turnaround time actually is about a week. So we'll throw it into the fermenting vessel, and then about 4 days later, cold crash it, and then send it over to racking vessel, and that'll sit there for maybe a day or two, and then it goes into cask.
So pretty quick production here.
That's a very fast production, which is really nice. It's probably one of the easiest and quickest methods that there is.
And what are some of the considerations that come into play when you start scaling from a pilot level system up to a full size system? A lot of people may not be aware of some of the things that come into play there.
Well, every system is different. And when you start going up in size, efficiency becomes a very big thing. And also, hop utilization is a big component. With hop utilization, you tend to see it go up. So you're going to get more bitterness out of your hops. And
so you can't just scale the hops up linearly. It doesn't work, right?
It doesn't work too well. You need to, and again, like I said, this really does come down to how your equipment is set up. At Castle Rock, we're getting just under 30% utilization for a 60-minute addition. But surprisingly, the hop back, if it sits for at least 15 minutes in there, it's getting a little under 20% utilization, just sitting there.
Yep.
No boiling, which is quite nice.
Yeah, if it's hot enough, you get isomerization. I think it's like above 80 C or so. You still get some utilization, right?
Correct. Yes.
So, Stefano, let's go back to you. Are you doing anything unique or different about your beer to distinguish it from other English ales?
Yeah, the product that we developed is pretty different because it's the fact that it is an hybrid style between traditional English ale and a German ale is pretty unique. In fact, many cask or craft beer that are outside are more hop oriented, so they try to use American hop or New Zealand hop mixed with the cask tradition. In our case, we try to produce something more balanced. The hops are there. We are using noble hops, so German hops, but in a balanced way.
So, I mean, you guys haven't jumped on, I don't know if it's going on over there, but over here, big IPA bandwagon right now. Everybody seems to want to produce hoppier and hoppier beers. You guys resisted that, right?
Yeah. It was, the initial idea was not to do something that everyone was doing something particular that was unique.
Can you talk a little bit more about the crossover? You said a crossover between an English ale and an alt beer. Can you talk about that? Because we haven't really discussed it much.
Yeah. In fact, the style that we are producing is an alt beer. So is a pretty dark beer with some roasty note, some bitterness, but not too much to balance the maltiness. But we are producing it in a traditional English system. We are packaging in cask and a part of it in bottles. So it's really an hybrid because the traditional German beer is not served in cask.
Well, William, what you're going to actually serve this beer as a cask ale, as we mentioned. What are some of the packaging and serving considerations that come into play? Because a lot of people here in the U.S., of course, use traditional kegs and not the cask serving. What comes into play there?
Well, when it comes to the beer, once it leaves the brewery, it's out of our hands for the most part, which is a little scary because we do a lot of hard work to make sure that the beer that leaves is in very good condition. But then it goes and it sits at a pub for a couple of days for it to settle out. And then it really comes down to the publican to be able to determine when the beer is actually matured enough to sell. And in terms of management, draft hygiene is huge. You can tell if somebody hasn't cleaned their lines anytime frequently, or if there's any sort of bugs in the system or in the air, they haven't kept their cellar clean, you can get some issues. And again, it's, as I mentioned before, it's a cask ale, so it's served a little warmer and it's not as carbonated. So you can't really have, you don't really have a lot of vibrant flavors with the cask ale. It's pretty mellow and easily drinkable.
Well, Stefano, distribution is through Castle's Pubs, I gather. Can you talk a little bit about how the traditional beer distribution works in an English pub setting?
Yeah, in the English pub setting, direct sales is a pretty common way of distribution. In fact, in the past, the biggest brewery that there was in the UK, Bass, has thousands of pubs all around the UK. Now, Castle Rock, in the small scale, because it's a regional brewery, has a lot of pubs because they in the city of Nottingham, they have around 20 pubs. So they do direct sale in cask.
So, can you explain that a little bit? Are the pubs actually owned by Castle Rock? How does that work?
Yeah, they are owned by Castle Rock. Then there is a parallel management. So all pubs have their own staff, but they are all employees of the same company. So this has a good impact also on the quality of the beer, because as we said before, as the cask leaves the brewery, it's in the end of the publican. But if the publican is an employee of the brewery, it's good because it will take care of the beer, and it's good also from the income side because the margin is higher as the brewery is selling directly. So I think it is a good system of distribution.
Very cool. Well, Will, all this ties back to your education and your master's thesis at the University of Nottingham. What are some of the things you think you achieved? I think you guys are very near the end of your project now, which probably means you're wrapping things up. But what are some of the things you think you achieved here?
Well, with this project, it's a capstone. So it is us taking everything that we've learned throughout the year and actually applying it, which is very unique compared to some of the other dissertation projects that are going on, which are mostly lab-based, looking at something very specific, such as a particular strain of barley or finings, something like that. So for us, this is just kind of a last check to see if what we've done has been worth it, I guess.
So you think it was worth it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to ask both of you if you have anything you want to add. I'll go with Stefano first.
Yeah, we would like to invite all the people that will be around Nottingham for July the 12th, as we will do a big launch event at the Canal House, which is a pub of the Castle Rock. So if you are around Nottingham, you are all invited to drink one of our beer. And if you want to follow us on the social media, you will follow us during these last few weeks of the process, but that will be really, really busy. As we said, Saturday we are brewing on the small scale, and then the following 2 weeks there will be fermentation, racking, and then finally drinking.
Do you have a social media link you wanted to share? I brought your web page up here, but I know you got a Facebook page, I think, right?
Yeah, we have also a Facebook page, which is Zerogravity in one word, and Brewing.
Okay.
And we are also on Twitter as well.
And I'll make sure to put the links in the show notes as well. Will, do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, I guess if people are interested in brewing in terms of making a career out of it and pursuing an education, we've been happy with this program, both Steph and I, and pretty much everyone else on our course. At least I feel like I can speak for them on that matter. So obviously, if people are interested in the program, please feel free to
Have you got
contact.
a web link for that? I'd be happy to put it in the show notes. I assume at University of Nottingham in the UK, right?
Yes, and I can send that on over to you here in a little bit. I don't actually have the direct.
No, that'd be fine. I can certainly put it in the show notes. Folks can get it at beersmith.com/blog, which is where I have all the shows posted. Well, I wanted to thank you both again for coming on the show. Will, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Brad.
And Steph, really appreciate you being here as well.
Thank you, Brad.
And good luck with your capstone brewing next week. I think it's pretty exciting. I wish I could be there in Nottingham to sample the beer. Maybe you can ship a little over. I don't know. But congratulations to you guys on the Zero Gravity project. Again, my guests today were William Brennand and Stefano Occhi. I've got to get his name right. Stefano Occhi.
Yeah, right.
Both students from the University of Nottingham and working on a unique brewing project called Zero Gravity. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to William Brennand and Stefano Occhi for joining me this week from the University of Nottingham. Thanks also to Anvil, the new line of brewing equipment from Blickman Engineering. Anvil's new kettle strainer is stainless steel filtration screen that's plug resistant and will efficiently filter out your hops and trub. It fits easily over your Anvil kettle dip tube and is attractively priced at $44.99. Find out more about Anvil at anvilbrewing.com. Again, that's anvilbrewing.com. And also Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine. You get 6 amazing issues each year, packed with information for brewers and beer fans. This month's issue has a detailed focus on saisons as well as brewer profiles and beercation ideas. I encourage you to check out this great magazine for homebrewers at beerandbrewing.com. Again, that's beerandbrewing.com. And finally, BeerSmith Mobile, the perfect brewing app for your iPhone, iPad, Android, or Kindle Fire device. Learn more about creating great recipes on the go with BeerSmith Mobile at beersmith.com/mobile or on Google Play, iTunes, or the Kindle App Store. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great brewing week.